All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. Really, let me just, there we go, back to here. So first of all, thank you very much, everyone, for joining in. Really appreciate your time and trouble to come over here for this little talk. And I wanted to explore with you a rather radical idea that I came up with, which is basically the basis of my books so far. So it's entitled, the talk is entitled Science, Free Will, and Teshuva. To tie it in with the austerity made Teshuva that we're currently in right now, and it's very shaykh to our times. But first of all, I just want to make it clear, I like interactivity. So if anyone has a question, mute participants on entry. Yes, I should do that. Continue. Yes, thank you for that. Okay, so I appreciate interactivity, and at any time that you want to ask any questions, please feel free to raise your hands and ask any questions. Okay, so first of all, this is me. Thank you very much for coming, and this is me if you didn't know me before. So I was born and raised in South Africa, and I made Aliyah in 2002 with my family. I'm a software engineer, and technically I'm an Orthodox rabbi, but I don't do much with that. And I am a husband, father, and grandfather, Barak Hashem, which is a wonderful thing to be. And also I run a bit and have fun with PowerPoint. Your question.
Can you be a rabbi for a wedding?
Can I be a rabbi for your wedding? Yes. Thank you for asking that question. I get a lot of demand for that. I'll have to check if my diary is available to do that. Thank you for the fan mail in the back over there. So I'm going. So I've just been invited to be a Masada Kedushin. Thank you. Okay, and I also write in my spare time, which I have very little. But if you have something on your mind, then you need to get it out. So the first three over there are some short stories, and two very short stories over there. And on the left in the middle pit is a slightly longer story aimed at the sort of 10-year-old child kind of bracket. It's a rather cheeky little story about a kid who thinks he's got an ayin hara on him, and goes into the real idea of what is an ayin hara. And then my magnum opus, Barak and the Free Will Paradox, which I published 6 years ago, and this one, which just has hit the shelves now. So that's my portfolio at the moment. Okay, so how did this all come about? What is the motivation? Why do I write? And the reason is because it all started with a general love that I have of sci-fi, fantasy, Harry Potter, Artemis Fowl, Bartimaeus, Lockwood and Co. of late. Those I go crazy about. And they're like really very enjoyable and fun and escapist, but it's like into galleries. Oh no, got more people to join in. Okay, I thought I got rid of the waiting. Okay, anyway, you can't get rid of it for
people outside of service.
Oh, outside service now. You go. There's no. Okay, it's fine. Thank you, David. Okay, so basically, the thing with a lot of these stories is that while they're fun and escapist and whatever, it's like no Musar in it. It's very little. Like you can, if you want, you can take Harry Potter and read a little bit of Musar in it, but it's like you got to stretch yourself. So what about Jewish fiction? I mean, there is Jewish fiction out there, and the question I want to ask is like, has anyone else tried reading Jewish fiction? So honestly, it's very, very hard
Like art school?
Art scroll, yeah. Yes, art scroll, Jewish fiction. You mean like biographies of rabbis? Yeah. But the stuff that actually builds itself as fiction is, and I don't want to be like disparaging about other authors, but it's I was having fun with Mid-Journey, and that was kind of my reaction to a lot of the stuff I've read. There is good stuff out there, but it's very, very far, very, very few of them, and very far between. And so into my beautiful wife over here, who one day caught me reading Harry Potter for about the 9th time and said, "Why are you reading this rubbish?" And I said, "Because there's nothing good." And she said, "No, this is my wife. I think all of you know her. She is of the Shita that if something doesn't exist and the world needs it, then create it." So I learned from her, and that became my mission, is to write fiction that is both entertaining and carries some serious content payload. So that when you're reading something, it's fun, but it also gets you to think and carries a moral message and something that will leave you with food for thought. Okay, so with that as the background, let's take a look at the problem that we set out to solve over here. It's the free will paradox. Free will paradox is a very old story. It's free will itself. The idea of free will is at the core of, I think, almost every religion. To a greater or lesser extent, whether you're Christian or Muslim or Jewish or Hindu, whatever, everything is about choosing good. Whatever your definition of good is, varies from religion to religion, but it's all about making choices. And ultimately, there's an idea of reward and punishment, which is based on your free will choices. Okay, but there's a problem with this. Is that the problem is that almost any religion that believes in God believes that God is perfect, omniscient, omnipotent, knows everything, is all powerful, and therefore, if God already knows everything, then he knows past, present, and future, and if he already knows what the future is going to be, then he already knows what the result is of your free will choices. And if he knows the results of your free will choices, then how is it a meaningful decision? Because you didn't actually, it was a foregone conclusion what you were going to choose. So this is a problem that has had philosophers talking about it throughout the ages. And many people have advanced different solutions. I'm not going to go into other people's ideas, and there are lots of very good, plausible, coherent explanations for how to solve the free will paradox. But I'm going to come up with my own one over here, which is informed by more current thinking in terms of science fiction, in terms of quantum physics as well, as we will see, and it's a novel kind of way of addressing the problem, but it's also got a pretty strong basis, I believe. Okay, so let's start with something as Rob Haber would say. Let's simplify this and talk about Kabbalah. Okay, as he said this afternoon. So let me introduce you to this gentleman over here is the Ramchal. And he and many other Kabbalim start out the question with, like, why did God create the world? Almost any Sforah in Kabbalah, any sefer in Kabbalah starts out with the question, why did God create the world? And the answer is
To give it to us.
It's a gift to us, right? In order to give to us, right? Because God is fundamentally good and wants to give good to another. So the story goes, not just any good, but the best possible good, and like when you want to have something really good, is it better if somebody just gives you a free gift, or if somebody gave you something that you actually earned? Everyone would say, yeah, you feel better about getting something that you earned, which is why God gives us free will in this world, to give us the free choice, so that when we get our reward, it's the best possible good. So this world is the world of the concealment. We don't get to see everything that's really happening, but we have the ability to make free choices, to choose good, and it's possible to earn reward in this world. The world to come is the world of reward. Okay, so that's your background Kabbalah for now. All right. So having just started you off with the free will paradox, that's the one that everyone asks about. I've got another one to add to this. Okay, so we just said that the purpose of God creating the world was to bestow good on others. Okay, because if God is perfectly good and part of being good is giving, so He's got to give to others in order to fulfill His goodness. Okay, so your first question is: if God is infinite with infinite capacity to do good, if He created just one person who just started the world, and Adam Arishon had been put in Gan Eden and he hadn't done any faith, and that was it, and Hashem said, "Okay, that's it. Here goes all the reward." It's just one person who's getting that reward. Would that have been sufficient for God to bestow this ultimate good? Just one person? Hashem can give infinitely. Okay, so let's up the stakes a bit. How about 10? 100? A million? 100 million? A billion? What about every human who's ever lived? Is that enough? It's still a finite number.
Well,
So, okay.
can a person receive an infinite amount of goodness? Or because he's human, by definition, he can't receive anything.
That's possibly an answer. That's possibly an answer that you're saying over here, but I'm going to go further than that. But hold that thought, because we're going to come back to it. Okay. All right. So let's pick up some clues about where we're going to go. Let's start with another famous holy Jew over here called Rav Zusha of Nepali. And Rav Zusha of Nepali was known that he was a Chassid. He was a very saintly, pious person, and everyone loved him. And he was just a fabulous human being, the kind of person that you'd really like to meet and sit at the table with. And on his deathbed, he was sitting in a deathbed, lying in his deathbed, and crying, and his students said to him, like, "Rebbe, like, why are you crying? Or what are you afraid of in this in the next world? You've been the consummate tzaddik of our generation. Like, what on earth do you have to fear?" And his answer to them was like this. He said, "I'm not afraid that Hashem is going to judge me for not being Abraham Avinu, not being Yitzchak, for not being Moshe, for not being Shlomo or David or anyone else. What I am afraid is that they're going to ask me, why weren't you Zusha? Why weren't you Zusha?" Now this is quite an alarming thing, because what is the suggestion over there is that there's a perfect image of a Zusha somewhere out there. Okay? And after 120 years, we've all come in front of the heavenly court. And if we're all going to follow the story that Rav Zusha is talking about, then we're going to be held to the standard of what we could have been. So we're going to get in front of this court, and they're going to hold up this image of us and say, "You could have been that. Why weren't you? What did you do wrong? Why didn't you achieve the standard?" Right? But so somehow the heavenly court knows what we could have been. How do they know? Right? On the other, we could have been up to there. We could have been, using Rav Zusha over there as the ultimate gold standard of what you could have been, or you could have gone perhaps in the other direction. Anyone recognize him? It's not. Yeah, Mr. Burns. Okay, yeah, that's Mr. Burns. I was trying to think of some character who's like really the epitome of evil, and there's some people who come to mind, but I wouldn't want to put their pictures on my wall, so I'll stick with Mr. Burns for this one. Okay, so I could have been Rav Zusha, or I could have been Mr. Burns. Is there perhaps a middle ground in there? Well, yeah, there's a middle ground in there. In fact, there's an entire spectrum of where you could have been between Mr. Burns and Rav Zusha, or where placeholders for my worst possible me and my best possible me. Okay. So again, my question comes to to the heavenly court, they're sitting there and judging me what you could have been. And I'm going to say, how do you know? You're holding me to this standard, and prove it. Okay, so I mean, let's take a step back and take a look at the human being's path through life. All starts over here when you've got a cute little baby who. Okay, well, let's not start with a cute little baby because the babies don't have free choice. But we say from bar mitzvah age, that's when you start having like real free choice. In fact, probably even from age 20, we have sources that even though the Beis Din of the world judges people from age 13, the Beis Din Shel Ma'ala only starts at age 20. That's only that's when you've actually reached enough maturity to make meaningful free will decisions. Okay. So this kid over here has now got a choice which direction he's going to go. He's either going to go up there or he's going to go down there. Okay, so now let's say Mr. Burns, the Mr. Burns version of this boy comes after 120 years. He comes in front of the heavenly court. They're showing the image of Rav Zusha over there and say, "You could have been that," and he'll say to them, "Why? What went wrong?" And they said, "Look, on your bar mitzvah day, or according to the 20-year-old theory, there was a 20-year-old version of you out there who went and fried an ant under his magnifying glass, and that corrupted your soul and set you off on a path that sent you down there." And Mr. Burns turns to the heavenly court and says, "Okay, I admit I made a mistake over there, but like that was then. Are you telling me if I hadn't fried that ant, then I would have been up on the path to there, up to the top?" You know, he's got a very good very good question over here. It was just one choice. It was just one choice that I had, and that would have sent me up there. And if I'd made that choice, everything would have been perfect. Well, no, because really, the situation looks a little bit more like this. And here I'm oversimplifying. Okay, and that's me playing with Midjourney again. Okay, your situation is a lot more like this, where you are traversing a very, very complicated path, and there are going to be choices over there. But so we concede that this path through life is very complex. Okay, we've got that very complex situation here, and Mr. Burns can say, okay, so there was one choice. If I was going to get to that top, there would have been lots of other choices in order to get there. So how can you hold this image up of me and say that if I'd done this, I would have been there? How do you know? Prove it. And he'd have a very strong point, right? Because that path didn't happen. What happened was he made the wrong choice. He went down there. So how can they tell me that I would have, if I'd gone this way, I could have reached there? How do you know if it didn't happen? Unless it actually did happen. Now take a moment to let that sink in. Maybe it actually did happen. And this is where we start entering the realm of science fiction. Yeah. Okay, so in science fiction, we have many stories which deal with the ideas of parallel universes. Okay, of multiple the multiverse theory, as it were. Oh, thank you for coming. Okay, now we have basically the same universe which is branched off in different directions. Okay, and so that, yeah, that's the sort of many worlds interpretation. So what happens is you've got the same universe which is branched off in different directions. Now, let's just take a look at how this might tie in with Jewish philosophy. So that over there, another holy Jew, Eliezer Dessler, who wrote many treatises. One very important one being the treatise on free will, where he speaks about the Nakudas HaBechira, okay, where everyone has a certain free will point that's their edge, right? If anyone in this room, I assume, if you go into the grocery and the cashier opens the till to get you some change, and she drops a coin on the ground, and she turns down and is busy scrabbling on the ground, and now there's this open till in front of you, and you could just like stick your hand over and grab a 200 shekel note, but like, who's going to do that? That's not a free will decision for you. But there's somebody out there for whom that would be a free will decision, where they'd say, shouldn't I feel bad about it, but I need the money. And then there's somebody else for whom it wouldn't even be a second thought. Whoop, opportunity, whoops, done. Not even a thought. Right? The free will, that free is only a free will decision for the person in the middle, for the person for whom it actually is a challenge. And by making those free will decisions, says Rav Dessler, it works like a sort of a battlefield. You've got conquered territory, which is the area of, okay, these are the things where it wouldn't even be a thought for me to steal something. But I've got my bits on the edge, whereas like, I don't feel like getting up this morning for slechus. Maybe I'll just go to a later minute, or maybe I'll just skip the slechus or something like that. Okay, and then they're the ones that are just like totally beyond our free will. But as you make good decisions, you conquer that territory. The guy who was thinking of stealing it and decides not to do it this time, the next time the same thing happens, it's not really going to be a challenge because he's done it before. He's built up that muscle. Stephen Covey likes to say, free will is a muscle. You've got to exercise it for it to work. Okay, and that's basically the basis of the Rav Dessler free will point. Okay, that the only decisions in your life that are actually meaningful are decisions between good and bad, where you actually have a challenge. It's not the decision between, do I eat chocolate or vanilla ice cream? That's a meaningless decision. It might seem like a big dilemma at the time, but that's not a real decision. So my hypothesis is going to go along this line, that every free will decision in your life is a node from which two worlds branch. And they actually are very real branches, where one version of yourself, let's just put this over here. So every time a person makes a free will decision, basically a new world is created. You don't feel any difference because you only know the path that you've chosen. But somewhere in a parallel universe, it is a different reality, where you, or a different version of you. So, your experience of free will is still real. You really do have a choice between good and evil. It's a meaningful choice. Okay? But at the same time, God is aware of both realities because God knows everything. And God doesn't have a problem of conceptualizing multiple, however many they may be. Okay. So God is fine with managing multiple universes, not an issue. And as a result, the overall choice map may be astronomical and infinitely complex because you're not dealing only with your own personal free choices, but you're dealing with other people's free choices, and those free choices will impact the choices that land on your path. So you know, between all of the billions and billions of people in the world, each of whom is going through free will decisions, and every time one of them makes a free will choice, the whole world splits again. The number you're talking about is astronomical. You cannot even get this into your head, how many possible paths are going to be there. But for God, not a problem. God can deal with infinity. As a result, we have an answer to the free will paradox. Your experience of free will is real. You do have a meaningful choice, but God, on the other hand, is able to deal with the fact that there are all these multiple paths of different people who are all branching off in different paths, and there are gazillions of different versions of Shaul Bear who, at the end of their lives, are going to end up in being judged for how they did. And when they say, "You could have been like that," they mean it. There's a real person over there who actually did follow that path, and that's how we resolve this whole story. So, the bonus question that we had earlier. Where were we? Yeah. So remember, we had this question: about God having infinite ability to give, but only a limited number of people to give to. Okay, so you know where we're going over here. We're in a multiple many world scenario where every human being's free will creates a new node, and you've got each decision resulting in a subtly different world, but with different choices available to every human being. Number of worlds and the number of souls thus created becomes astronomical and, to all intents and purposes, infinite. Now, if you're gonna, you can get finicky on me and say, okay, that's not really a definition of infinity because it's still a countable infinite. Maybe it's maybe an astronomical number, but it isn't really infinity. I'm not going to be able to argue this point because this is something where you start getting into mathematics, and I just can't. My mind can't get around the different mathematical models of infinity. But let's just put it out there that maybe this is the kind of infinity we can talk about. Anyway, that's a side point. But seriously, so this so far has been in the realm very much of speculation. It always is going to remain in speculation. It's very wild, and you think that okay, this will come out of my head, and maybe from Dessler and these multiple universes and whatever. But Bemet, multiple universes. That's what people write funny books about, and it's science fiction, and not really take it seriously. Okay, another one to admit. Okay, but the fact is that there is actually some serious science behind it. Okay. So I'm sorry, this is very small print. I hope you can see it. But the many worlds interpretation is actually a serious hypothesis in quantum physics. So it was first proposed in 1957 by Hugh Everett and popularized by Bryce DeWitt. And then, of course, there was the famous example of Schrodinger's cat. Now, I'm sure people have heard about Schrodinger's cat because there've been like all sorts of funny Far Side cartoons about. There's one of my favorite ones is the guy sitting in the waiting room at the vet, and the vet comes out and says, about your cat, Dr. Schrodinger, there's good news and bad news. Okay, and that's the punchline. So Schrodinger's cat basically is I should have told you Schrodinger's cat what it actually means before I told you the joke, but hopefully you'll laugh retrospectively. Schrodinger's cat is a thought experiment where you've got a cat in a box, and inside the box is a little vial of poison, and there's a radioactive substance inside the box, which has a 50% chance of decaying or not decaying. Okay, and if it decays, then it will release the poison and kill the cat. And if it doesn't decay, then the cat lives. Okay, and so while that box is closed, you have no idea whether the cat is alive or dead. The only way you know whether the cat is alive or dead is you open the box. So now that sounds like, okay, so this is just, what does this prove? It just proves that there's something that we don't know the answer to. Schrodinger didn't see it that way. He saw it actually as a fork in reality, where in one world, the cat is alive, and in one world, the cat is dead. To quote his words exactly, these are not alternatives, but all really happen simultaneously. Okay, and Schrodinger's like a serious scientific mind. He's not like somebody who just like read too much Asimov. Okay. Decision theory carried on in 1999. I could quote all these names to you. They're probably not meaningful, but the point being that this is something that is taken seriously by serious scientists. And again, here's another suggestion where the scientist actually says, he quotes a view of reality where the branch nodes represent decisions. And important wording over here is that each of the agent's future selves receives a reward that depends on the measurement result. So basically, which is a fancy way of saying that each self that it branches off is receiving a reward depending on what was being measured at the time. And if we put that into our terms, that means choose your free will decision. That is what's measuring, and that's what you're measuring, and what you come out with at the end is the reward. He uses the word reward, interestingly. I don't think he was meaning like the reward and punishment of Olam Haba, but it sounds strikingly similar to what we've been talking about. As a matter of fact, as I'll explain, Ari Barak and the free will paradox was built around this whole idea of this multiple universe, many worlds theorem. And I don't know if anyone has heard of Ted Chiang. Heard of Ted Chiang? He wrote a story which was turned into a movie actually recently. Did anyone see the movie Arrival? About these aliens that came and to communicate with these aliens. Okay, that's not the important thing. But he wrote another story, which is based on exactly the same theory that I've been proposing about multiple universes that fork out from free will decisions. Okay, you asked me, I didn't sue him. Because imitation is the highest form of flattery, so I sent him some fan mail. Okay, and does this fit in with the Torah? So, I mean, I've been talking about quantum physics and my own hypotheses. Does this actually tie in with the Torah, or is this something that's possible apikoursis? And look, at the very least, it's a plausible and mostly inoffensive proposal because it's not going to get anyone to stop doing mitzvahs or not treat life seriously. In fact, hopefully it gives you much more of a serious thought about what the meaning is of your free will decisions and what the implication is if you think about it enough. But I found some interesting backup to my theory from a modern source, which comes from the pasuk in Parashat Shmos. So Moshe is coming out and he sees the Egyptian taskmaster beating the Israelite. Quote, Moshe looked here and there, saw that there was no man, and he struck the Egyptian dead and hid him in the sand. Okay, what does Rashi say on that? Huh? He looked into the future, right? So Shmos Rabbah and Targum Yonasan says, Moshe looked down his generations and saw that the taskmaster had no descendants who would be righteous. Can anyone spot the problem with this? What's his future? What's his future? He's going to be dead. Because his future is going to be very short indeed, right? Moshe is going to kill him, and he's not going to have any children.
Yeah, kids already.
But then why does Moshe care? If his kids are already alive, then what difference does it make?
He's looking whether those kids, grandchildren, great grandchildren would be good people.
What they already exist.
If they already exist, then what difference does it make?
Produce more people will come to meet them, possibly.
The whole idea over here is that we're looking to see, Moshe is looking down into the future to see that is this guy going to have future generations? And if he looks into the future, he's going to see, well, this taskmaster is actually dead. So he's definitely not going to have future generations. What kind of Ruach HaKodesh is that's going to look into the future and see a future that doesn't, that's very, very short indeed. So yeah, Rabbi Jackal.
If he doesn't kill him, there will be descendants. Yeah,
if he doesn't kill him, that's the whole point. And that means, as Rabbi Jackal says, that the rabbis believed in the many worlds theory. Because there's one reality in which Moshe doesn't kill him. And we see what happens. If Moshe doesn't kill him, then he'll go and he'll have children, and we'll see what kind of children come out of there. Okay. But of course, there's our reality that we're in, where Moshe did kill him. Because he said, even if he has children, they go. Not nishkafela. They're not going to be worth much. So rather get rid of this guy. He needs to be. He's there's no big loss to the world if we get rid of this guy. And but again, how did Moshe know? If you don't have another universe in which this guy actually did live on and had children. Interesting food for thought. Maybe there are other explanations. I haven't seen any. Okay, so yes. Huh? You've got some other explanations? Have you got some others? Okay, I want to hear them, but let's take that off as questions afterwards. We'll take the questions afterwards. Okay,
I'll give you a name for their book.
Okay. It also suggests, by the way, that there are limits to free will because taskmaster wasn't going to become a tzaddik under any part of free will. So it's not like like Rav Dessler, the free will decisions are only things that you can that are realistic, that the person can actually attain in their within their scope of Bechira. So
Question idea with Ishmael, if he was Asher, because none of that says that at the end of 6 Hashem is
his descendants are going to be that, and that's right, by Hashem Husham. That's a good observation.
and we need Hashem to know it now and say, not be it, never really know.
That is an interesting observation. So if he has, so Ishmael obviously also has free will, and he has the free will to and his descendants will have free will. So there is one branch of reality where Ishmael's descendants are going to do what they did, but there's another branch maybe where look, that's not really the answer. The Ba'asher Husham is that Hashem is only judging him for where he is right now, and where he is right now he's at Tzaddik. Whereas if you compare that to the Egyptian right now is a Rasha. He was trying to kill a Jew, and Moshe said, "Okay, I've got to intervene." And the Ba'asher Husham there worked the other way. But it could have worked actually both ways, because if he had what's implicit in this is that if he had worthwhile descendants, then Moshe might have held off on killing him, because
because it was
Oh, yes.
nation spared because there are going to be some descendants coming out. Not with
Yeah.
keeping the whole nation alive.
Right. So so when there's a future plan, so it looks like it's an all gate over there. Either you're okay now, or something else is going to be good in the future. If there's some good, then it's worth keeping you alive.
After reveal, Yaakov knew.
So you have A.
Yaakov on his deathbed, he was about to reveal to everybody what was going to happen.
Definitely that it's finite and the eighth only once.
That's why I have a different. I have a different theory.
Interesting. It's interesting. I'm not sure. We'll just explore where that goes. Okay. And to draw this into our time over here, where we have where we're talking about Aseret Teshuva, and we're all thinking about Teshuva before Yom Kippur. Teshuva basically functions as a shortcut through the maze. So where Mr. Burns is standing over there, a sincere Teshuva is able to give him an incredible boost, that if he actually has sincere regret and does Teshuva either from Yira, he can cancel his Averas, from Ava, he can turn his Averas into mitzvahs. That's a turbo boost to get you back up, like a tunnel. In other language, we talk about having a tunnel under the Kisei HaKavod to let you in. Teshuva is that incredible secret of how to get yourself out of that rut, out of the dark places that a person can get into. The doors are never closed to Teshuva. It's a free will decision, but a very powerful one, and nobody can ever claim that the door of Teshuva was closed to them. We have so many stories in Gemara. Elazar ben Dodaya, who was like the most despicable person, who just in his last moments cried himself to death in regret of his lifetime spent wasted, and was admitted to Olam Haba. Okay. So that is an introduction point to Ari Barak part 2, the Red Warrior's Gift, because there's a very, very strong angle of Teshuva. I'm not going to give any plot spoilers at this point, but the book itself focuses has many inflection points that result from Teshuva, and I'll leave you with that as a teaser. So some background on the first book, The Free Will Paradox, was shortlisted for Best Religious Fiction at the American Fiction Awards, which means that it was on the last list of 5 candidates for the actual final prize. Didn't win the prize, but that was, I thought, a pretty good thing. And that, by the way, was that's a non-Jewish sort of general author kind of competition where you enter your book and see and it's for a general audience. So it's being judged against a lot of other books. All the Amazon reviews, five-star reviews all the way through. And I thought it was a pretty darn good book. Comes Red Warrior's Gift, our new book over here, which, okay, so this one was, book one was built around the thesis that I've spoken about tonight. And it started out with that idea, and I built a story around the idea, which I thought was a pretty good story, and it took me a year to write it.
Your daughter's,
Huh?
your daughter's not.
With my daughters, oh yeah, because she was busy reading behind me. That's correct. She was like giving me ideas as I was going along. Okay. Red Warrior's Gift takes this theory kind of as read, gives a little intro at the beginning in case you forgot about it, and focuses rather on a high quality storyline. And this one took me 5 years to write. Okay. Admittedly, I wasn't putting as much contiguous time into it, but I think it's a measure of the amount of thought, planning, and refinement that went into this book. And honestly, early readers are saying this is like next level. They enjoyed the first one, but the second one is like next level, and I feel that myself. I feel like when I read Barak 2, which I've done many times because I had to do it as part of the process of editing and refining and whatever. So I've probably read this book about 10 times by now. And every time I read it, I actually feel like my heart quickening and like getting into the story. And this is my own punt for myself, is that I really enjoy this book. Okay, so that kind of concludes the presentation. Everyone here is entitled to three stories and a preview of Ari Barak and the Free Will Paradox. And oh, we've got the lucky draw over here. So you've got everything over here. Can I just pass this around and put my name and email address down? I'm going to, with your permission, I'm going to put you onto my my email list of my readers. It's an opt-in list. So if you ever get bugged by the mail that I'm sending out, you're free to unsubscribe. There's no like I've got lots of people who are subscribing and unsubscribing all the time, and I really don't take offense at anyone. I just want to give you the opportunity to take a look at what I'm sending out. We shall do a little draw over here for a free copy of this new book. And okay, well then I'm gonna have to do this myself. All right, live draw for people who are here. Huh? No, my wife has been taking registry of who's walked in.
Some people have put 2 papers.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And the answer is Hedley Bainish. Congratulations. You have earned yourself a Good. Thank you very much. Okay, so at this point, we're going to take we'll take any questions. And David, I wanted to hear actually from you. You said there was another suggestion of how to reconcile the Moshe killing the taskmaster and how he saw the taskmaster's future.
That's not related to that. It's a matter of taking into account the ability of time travel.
Okay, let's hear it. This sounds like good fodder. Go on.
For instance, if you have a davening, and davening is sitters on this list.
Yeah.
I feel like the words are taken.
I feel like the words have changed.
Change a little.
I can't say I've had that experience, but go on.
The only reason why you may experience it is because there was a change in the past. It could also have to do with free will. Because it might have changed slightly because of that. And the only way you would be able to understand that is if you were actually in all places at the same time. All those multiple universes at the same time are still part of the project. There's only one single main you have to go through.
is the main one. So how do the other ones branch off? And what is the meaning of those?
There has to be a main one, because you have to take the time to show. There has to be a main one.
Why does there have to be a main one? I didn't follow that.
Because then there's always a possibility of Mashiach will never be.
The possibility of Mashiach will never be.
And then that's just the price.
Isn't there, I mean, wouldn't Mashiach just be able to arrive in any reality?
No, it's like,
Hmm?
then there's no freedom.
Why? Is it?
Mashiach is supposed to be a person,
Yeah,
so he has to have a free will, not to be able to do that.
but, okay, but I'll counter that. If a person who could be Mashiach does not turn up in a particular reality, then the mantle of Mashiach would pass into a different person, to a different candidate.
We could also make the same music.
Hmm?
We could also make the same music. And the same shouldn't happen with infinite.
Yep.
It always has.
Maybe we're in that universe already, where so many people have already had the ability to be Mashiach and it's just doesn't.
So it has to be a main. Whether it's the one that you're talking about where you're at the top, somewhere in the middle, or somewhere in the bottom, it has to be a main one that gets you to the point where we actually want to. Everything. The world state. And that's why the individuals can experience the change.
When you say experience the change, just say that out again. What do you mean by experiencing the change?
As in there's something that you know is being moved. But then one day just that isn't it. Then you don't know where it happened, or change. Even in the city. It might be like a little.
A word that you never noticed before?
Yeah. Some little small things you never realized.
I'm a little skeptical of that because it's just because I have an experience of, oh, I didn't remember that was there before. It's possible that I'm just I have a false memory.
Take into account the time travel. Somebody can travel.
If somebody could travel
Change
in
a
time.
little tiny nuance. Even in the city.
Okay, so you're starting with the assumption that somebody could travel backwards in time and change something in the sitter, and then like my reality would be
Probably any of the multiverse theories, all this kind of stuff, you have to also take into account the ability to time travel, or
Okay.
even the ability to move between multiverses.
right. So yeah, so in my books, yes, there is time travel. Absolutely, we do have that's part of the plot is a lot of time travel, but it's not called time travel as much as.
We're a past obliteration.
But interactively. It's not just like, we're in a little bubble and we're watching what's happening. We're actually interacting with what's happening in that past. And if we change anything, then all that happens is that we're branching off in a different direction, creating a new branch.
Where do you go back?
Hmm?
And where do you go back?
You go back to the reality where, if you think of it as branches in a stream, okay, and you travel backwards in time, and you created a new branch, and you travel down that branch. Now, when you go back, then you have to go back upstream to that point and out again. That's basically what happens.
So you're still in your own timeline?
So you wind up coming back to your own timeline where things are unchanged. And there's a device inside that's called the attractor. An attractor is an object that was created by a free will decision, and that will bring you through the stream and help you to get back to the exact point where you came from.
That's exactly what I'm referring to, something along those lines, except that when you come back, there's nuances that change. You would be able to.
Okay. All right. We're going deep into that. Does anyone else have any questions, observations?
I just want to say that I like this idea because it makes understanding the concept of when you do Teshuva, you're actually changing a bear into a mitzvah.
Yeah.
Because if you started off here and you made a good decision, you would end up here. You made a bad decision, you ended up here. When you did Teshuva, you fixed the decision, so now you're over here.
Yeah.
It's easier to understand that. When it
Yeah.
happens.
Thank you.
But that can just throw out the whole thing and just say, that doesn't feel multiple like this words in this Zusha, right? Zusha, that could just be, it's just going up and down scale, and that you can also push the stuff up again. It's not that there's multiple parts. It's just like, so it's a heart, thinking of a heartbeat, I can go down and down, and there's some.
Yeah. You have that, but I mean that's just another path that can happen, because there's another version that took the tzaddik path and went up there, and it's possible that the Baal Teshuva path, the one who really descended and does Teshuva me'ahava, does the full thing, it's possible that he even gets higher than the one who took the tzaddik path.
Right. So you know, okay, like, I'm saying like, there doesn't be multiple realities, it's just my reality, same, just different timelines. You just move up and down in the same reality until you something back out. Either be like a Zusha,
But that's still, you know, you still need the multiple reality in order to put the base in Shamala to be able to say to you, you could have been that. Okay, you weren't.
even on the one part.
Even on the one part, they're saying that if you had just done Teshuva property alone before you died, you could have been there.
So you could think of something even a little bit more sadistic. Right? If you figure out a way to travel between multiple universes.
Yeah.
Then you can actually create your own multi-universes.
Yeah.
If you create all those universes, you can go into them and start experimenting
Yes.
in order to figure out what is the best path to go.
Also true. That's a nice idea. That's a nice idea. Thank you. I might use that.
So let's something on the second, then you might end up actually.
I'm sorry? You don't have to, but it's advisable. It's kind of like Harry Potter. You know, if you want to start with the Chamber of Secrets, you can, but you're missing out on a whole bunch of introductory stuff that you got in book one.
Right.
So I have had readers who have just picked up number 2 and gone through it. You can understand it, but you're missing a lot. As it happens, like me personally, my experience of Harry Potter was that I walked into a bookshop one day because I had extra time, and somebody was like giving away a copy of Harry Potter number 3 at like a ridiculous price, and I thought, oh, here's one of these Harry Potter books that everyone is talking about. I mean, I thought it was going to be like an Enid Blyton, and you know, okay, each one's a different kind of story and whatever. And I picked it up and I read it from book 3, and I realized that from book 3 that, oh, I'm actually missing a lot of stuff over here. So I went back to.
Are we missing something that could be, or is it just we can have?
I'd say it's very highly recommended to get book 1. I don't have any copies left of book 1. Probably, but I think, yeah, I think you do actually have a copy. If you don't have a copy, I've got a little thing you can scan here to get it on Amazon.
I saw it.
And they do say it's eligible for the Amazon, you know, $49 free shipping.
I saw my kids reading it, so I assume I'm not going to read it.
No, I'll tell you what, some of my most avid readers are people like in their 60s and 70s.
Harry Potter.
Huh?
Finished Harry Potter the first time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, you're a late bloomer.
My kids are all like into it like this.
Yeah, you got to be able to talk with them about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, so it's written for people who can written for people who can who enjoyed the kind of Harry Potter kind of text. I don't know if you've read Bartimaeus, Lockwood and Co., Arkwood and Artemis Fowl. I'll tell you what, the author who most influenced my writing was Owen Coulter, Artemis Fowl. I've used a lot of his techniques in my writing. Maya, you wanted to ask something?
כן,
אפשר לי.
רוב הספרים של הסייפה הם לרוב על חייזרים או על קסמים, מה קרה לך?
Right, so it's
זה לקבלה.
So sci-fi is not always about aliens and whatever. This here is about I call it sci-fi. It's really kind of on the edge of sci-fi, but it's more it's a bit of time travel and whatever, because you're talking about a hypothetical technology that allows you to do this time travel sort of thing. So it does fall into the basic boundary of sci-fi. Your question is מה השאלה בדיוק?
כשרציתי לכתוב ספר על מדע בדיוני, איך זה דווקא רציתי לקשור לקבלה,
Okay, so why am I connecting it to Kabbalah? Because this goes back to my original mission of why I want to write. I don't just want to write another Harry Potter that's fun to read and exciting and whatever. There are lots of those around, and you don't need me to come and add to those. What I'm adding to the picture over here is something that actually teaches a serious concept at the same time as being fun. Because if you take a kid and say, okay, here's a textbook, read this about Rav Dessler and the free will point of view. So some kids will be able to sit down and read it, but most kids would rather read Harry Potter. So what I'm doing over here is giving them, when the kids want to have medicine, you've got to give them like a bit of chocolate around the medicine. So this is a lot of chocolate and a little bit of medicine inside there. That it's fun to read, but at the same time, it's carrying some thoughts that hopefully are stimulating people to think in these kinds of directions. And I want people to come out of it having picked up something that's made them into a better person. That's the idea. Okay. Thank you. Really appreciate it. It's about and I really don't take it for granted. It's not a small thing to come out on the Motzei Shabbos to entertain me. Huh? Erev Yom Kippur. Yeah. So thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Okay, and that concludes the presentation. Thank you to Aha as well. Appreciate you joining me. Okay, and the and the presentation.